So I had a heart attack. Those words are hard to imagine, and they're even harder to say to you guys on video. So the craziest thing about this whole thing is it came completely out of the blue. We arrived here in Mexico, just outside of Truth or Consequences, down in the south central corner of New Mexico. Very isolated, very out in the middle of nowhere. Everything felt fine the first day we got here. I set up as normal. We were ready to roll. We got our camp set up. We were here. The next day after arrival, we took a walk around the campground, and I had this crazy burning sensation in my chest. Now, it had been, what, a year since we had been at any kind of elevation, and we're at about 45?
Almost 5,000.
Yeah, almost 5,000 feet here where we're located. And I chalked it up to just not being used to the altitude, having not been in altitude from Denver for over a year. So I didn't really think anything of it, and it went away right away.
Yeah, as soon as you stopped doing whatever activity you were doing, it was gone. So we're like, okay, that kind of sounds like altitude. I mean, we're kind of familiar with that.
Yeah.
Nothing was happening to me. I didn't experience anything, but we didn't think about that either. It's like, oh, okay, whatever. You know, we kind of rolled with it.
Yeah. So the next day, we decided to go check out the hot spring, Riverbend Hot Springs, right in downtown Truth or Consequences. If you get a chance to check it out, check it out. I don't know if I will again because of what happened next, but you never know.
It's really good. Just don't think about that when you go. Just go and relax.
The hot springs themselves are quite nice. The consequences of what happened, not so much. So we went to the hot springs, had a great time, got out of the hot springs, came back to Tahoe to have dinner and relax for the evening. The whole entire evening, I was just hot. Yeah. And just my body wasn't cooling down. And we were outside sitting, enjoying the evening, enjoying a fire. And I went in to get us some water, used the restroom. I came out of the restroom and was in the living room of Howie. And what happened next? Boom, I hit the ground.
So from my perspective, I'm outside. We have the fire going. We're sitting there. I knew that he was kind of feeling a little funky, but I wasn't sure why. So I'm out there. I'm on my phone. I hear this big thud. And it's like, things that happen inside the RV sound a lot
louder outside.
Yeah, a lot louder outside. And I thought he dropped something. And then I just sat there, which I feel bad that I just sat there. But I only sat there for like a minute. And then after a minute, I'm like, wait, he hasn't come back out here. So I come in. He wasn't on the ground, but he was barely holding himself up on my desk chair there. And I've never seen him like that. So I got him to the recliner. He kind of fell into the recliner, and I'm asking him, I'm like, are you okay? He's really not answering me. I said, did you fall? And he wasn't answering. I said, did you hit your head? Because I needed to know if he hit his head. And he was kind of in and out. And so I just instinctively knew at that point to call 911. So I'm on the phone with 911. And then I'm still trying to talk to him, and he's not responsive. And so I'm sorry I did this, but I slapped his face, I hit his chest, and he's just still not responsive. So I'm slightly freaking out, but I still was on the phone with 911. They said they were sending somebody. And then of course Rich is there going, no. When he did come back, no, I'm fine. I'm like, no, baby, you're not fine.
The whole entire time that was going on, I was conscious and aware of what was happening, but I felt like I was responding to you in slow motion, which turned out to be not responding to you at all, really. But it was a very bizarre feeling. So I was awake, I was conscious, but I was not responding.
There were moments I think you weren't conscious, or you were coming in and out of it, and he was so clammy and he was so hot. And I don't think I've ever seen another human being look as lifeless in the face, the color, the eyes, everything that I saw. It was very scary and unnerving. Okay. Yeah. And then the fire chief got here. Yes, the chief came because it's a very small town. He comes in the rig. He checks out Rich. He says, well, the ambulance will be a little while because of the system they have down here. They're on another call. I'm like, okay, we were just thought he had altitude sickness or something.
And at that point, I had kind of come out of it, and I was actually talking with the chief at that point.
You were talking with him, and but you were still so clammy, and so it just, he wasn't right. And so it took like 15 minutes for the ambulance to get here. The paramedics came in, they started checking him out, and then he actually on his own volition walked out. They helped him obviously, so he wouldn't tumble down the stairs, and they got him on the stretcher. And then they wheeled him into the ambulance, and they said, "Oh, there is a hospital here in Elephant Butte / Truth or Consequences." He said, "We're just going to the hospital. You just follow us." So I got in Stella, got her backed out. I'm behind the ambulance, and I'm just waiting. And so you were in the ambulance.
For
what were
a
they
good
doing to you?
I was in there for probably a good 10 minutes. Just now, this was not just a normal ambulance transportation crew. These were actually
Paramedics.
Paramedics. They were, yeah, actually ER qualified. They were on the phone with the hospital, the local hospital in Truth or Consequences. It was becoming apparent really quickly that I actually was having a heart attack. And it was determined right then and there within that 10 minutes that the facility in Truth or Consequences could not handle what was going on with me. The next closest facility was 75 minutes away in Las Cruces, New Mexico. And it became apparent to them and to me and to kind of everybody involved that you need to get here ASAP as soon as possible.
I had no idea. I'm just sitting in Stella waiting to go, and I'm thinking to myself, this is taking way too long. All they had to do was, maybe start an IV, whatever they're doing, and then they go. And it was a long 10 minutes. So I'm just sitting there trying not to let my brain go in all these different areas. And then the paramedic comes over, I put the window down, and she first tries to gauge, my level of freak outness. And she's like, "Well, I need to tell you something. Are you okay?" I says, "I'm fine. I'm good in a crisis. Just what's going on?" And she says, "Your husband is having a heart attack. We have to go to the hospital in Las Cruces." And I'm like, holy crap. And it's like, okay, he's having a heart attack. I didn't expect that.
Yeah.
I expected her to say, he's doing okay. We're going to take him to the hospital. And I said, okay. And I don't even, it was just instinctively, I grabbed my phone, I said, "What's the hospital name?" I got it in, I got it all queued up on Google. And I says, "Well, I should leave ahead of you because, you guys are going to go really fast." She goes, "I am going to drive so fast down there. Don't you worry."
And she did too.
And so I headed off. And I don't think I was completely freaked out. I am good in a crisis, but I never thought how good I would be when I'm actually in the crisis. It's one of those thought processes, little small crises, I'm fine. I was okay, but I knew that I was on the verge of completely losing it. And so I called my mom, which I knew delivering this news to my mom, she might completely lose it. So I started off, she gets on the phone, I said, "Mom, you are not going to freak out. You are not allowed to freak out. You just chill out. Rich is having a heart attack, and I have to drive 75 miles down to Las Cruces to the hospital." "Thank you, Mom. You did good."
During the entire ambulance ride down to Las Cruces, number one, they were driving fast. They were driving quickly, but they were in communication with the hospital down in Las Cruces, talking with the cardiac people there. And as you could, they were on speakerphone. Obviously, I was connected to a
EKG.
Yeah, connected to an EKG live to the hospital. They were reading everything and completely awake, completely coherent as to what was going on. And as they were talking back and forth, it was becoming more and more apparent that not only was this a heart attack, but it was a serious heart attack. And they were mobilizing the team at the hospital to receive me once I got there. And that's where I don't want to say I freaked out, because I didn't freak out, but that was my oh crap moment. Like, oh my God, this is happening, and not only is it happening, but it's serious.
Yeah, you got the gravity of the situation.
Yeah, I got the gravity of the situation, and the whole entire time that we were on our way to the hospital in Las Cruces, the team said, "We want to stay connected," because normally they just send vitals and then say we're on our way. But the whole entire time, the doctor was on the phone with the paramedic the whole entire time. I was connected the whole entire time. They were reading live in real time what was going on. And it turns out later what was happening is they were afraid that I was going to crash in the ambulance on the way to the hospital. Once we got there, which did not feel like 75 minutes, it felt like 10 minutes.
Well, she was going really fast.
I mean, it was crazy. Once we got there, I was wheeled literally right into the cardiac team waiting.
Which is just amazing, and I think that's what saved you.
Yep.
So while he was in the ambulance, hearing the gravity of the situation, I'm driving Stella in the dark, down 25 at 75, 80 miles an hour.
Now
My
you
mom on
had you had
speakerphone.
left before the
Yeah, I
ambulance
left
actually
before,
left.
and I'm on the speakerphone with my mom, you know, through Stella, and I had the thought, it's like, oh my God, I left before the ambulance. They're going to pass me at some point. And shortly after that, I look in my rear view and I see the lights. And I'm on the phone with my mom, and I'm like, Mom, the ambulance is coming. And as it came closer and closer, I slowed down and I got off.
You
to
pulled
the side.
over, right?
Yeah, I did. Like, no, I got in the middle of the road so they couldn't get by me. Yeah, I pulled over, and it was such a surreal moment as the ambulance, you know, sped by, lights blaring, and knowing that he is in there. And I didn't know, you know, heart attack. It could be a mild heart attack, could be a major heart attack. He could have crashed. I didn't know. I had 75 minutes or however long it took me to get down there to wonder, is he dead or alive? And I don't recommend that for anybody. It's terrifying. Luckily, I had my mom to talk to, and then I called a friend, and we talked. And so I really was not alone with my own thoughts that entire ride until we got closer to the exit, because I you know, cannot talk on the phone and figure out where the hell I'm going at the same time. I think the scariest thing for me in that moment was, and I've watched far too many medical shows, and this probably what caused this. I get up to the exit, I'm at the stoplight, and there's an ambulance in front of me and has no lights on. And I freaked out because I know an ambulance with no lights is not in a hurry. And then I'm like, oh my God. And then I realized it wasn't the same ambulance. But that was probably the scariest moment of that whole thing. So I finally get to the hospital. I'm running in the emergency room. I go to the desk thinking, okay, you know, they just had this guy wheeled in having a heart attack. You know, they take care of me. And she's like, well, let me check. And I'm like, my husband just had a heart attack. He came in from Truth or Consequences. Well, let me check. So she goes to check. 5 minutes go by. She's still sitting there. I walk up again. I go, well, what's going on? Well, I said something to a nurse. And so at that point, I'm getting pissed off. And I've got my mom on text. And I see the big doors open and close. And I realize that there's seconds that I could just run into the back and go find him. And I wanted to do that. And my mom's like, don't do that. They're gonna kick you out. I'm like, no, they're not. And I don't care. But then I saw a security guard. And I went up to him and I said, my husband just came in from Truth or Consequences, having a heart attack. I just need to know, is he alive or dead? Can you go check? He went right back, came right back and said, he's in room 13. You can go see him. And I went back. And it's like, never do that to someone in this situation. I get in there. He looks just as bad, if not worse, than when I saw him in the rig. And they were on their way out the door. So we're taking him to the cath lab. You know, we're gonna go in. We're hopefully to put some stents in and take care of him. And so we walk down. I give him a kiss goodbye, and he's off to the cath lab.
Yep. And during that time, it was determined that I needed stents, not open heart surgery.
Thank goodness for that.
Thank goodness for that. And I had plus 80% blockage in 2 of my arteries, and I was kind of coherent, incoherent at that time. But I at least got that out of the doctor, that we're taking you in, you're getting stents, and everything will be fine afterwards. So, and everything was fine with one minor exception. I was awake during the whole stent procedure, but obviously they had me drugged, so I was not very aware of what was happening and obviously couldn't feel anything. But the one downside of the entire experience is they pumped me full of so many fluids that I developed pulmonary edema, which is, I'm not a medical person and I don't play one on TV,
Fluid in the lungs.
but basically it's fluid in the lungs. They had pumped me so full of fluid that I had fluid in the lungs. So they solved one issue but created another. And when I came out of the cath lab and got wheeled into kind of the ICU to recuperate, my lungs were filled with liquid and I felt like I was drowning.
That must have been really, really scary.
It was horrible. It was worse than anything that I felt with the heart attack. Was that gurgling in your lungs every time you take a breath, and that feeling like you're drowning. I think it lasted. They had given me some different medications, things like that, and that lasted about 2 hours before I actually had started breathing normally again.
In this whole situation, there were a few times where I was really worried about that this was not going to be a good outcome. And when they finally allowed me into the ICU after the procedure, the doctor had proceeded to tell me like 20 minutes earlier, I'm asking, how long will it take to get better? He says, let's just get through the next few hours and the next day.
And I remember hearing that.
And I'm like, okay, that's not good. That's just not good. And then I get into the ICU, and it's like on all the medical shows that I would watch. There was like 7 people in there. He had all these things hooked up to him. I could tell he could barely breathe. I could see it in his eyes how scared he was. Yeah. And I was worried at that moment, and I was worried for the next couple of days till he really started breathing a little bit better. I'd come back here. I mean, I drove there every single day, back and forth, 150 miles. And I finally got him his phone, and so I couldn't leave to drive or come back until I heard his voice to know that he was okay. That lasted far too many days than I wanted it to last. But in the end, he came home. Yeah, he came with oxygen. A week later, he's off the oxygen. The net results were 6 weeks out from the heart attack. He's 99.9% back. Would you say, are you ready to say 100 yet?
Yeah, nope, not ready to say 100 yet, because I still do get tired fast. But having follow-up visits with the cardiologist, there doesn't appear to be any long-lasting damage to the heart, which everybody is grateful for. And the doctor did say that the speed at which everybody in this case reacted helped the situation. Obviously, I've got the stents in place, which is one lasting effect from the heart attack, but there doesn't appear to be any other damage to the heart. My lungs are almost back to 100%. I'm glad to say we're now walking around the campground 2 to 3 times daily and not having any burning in the chest whatsoever. So there's still some recovery that needs to happen. I mean, right now I still can't ride my bike to the level I was riding before. I still can't hike to the level I was riding before. I still can't hike to the level we were hiking before, those sorts of things. But I do see improvement every single day. So I know that I will get there.
Yeah, I see the improvement every day, and it's very reassuring. And in my mind, you're almost 100%. And so, you know, those few percent, we're going to work on that, and it makes sense that it's going to take a while. And so after this whole event happened, it made us think of a lot of different things. And there were times during his stay in the hospital where I had to think, as RVers, what are we going to do?
What are we doing? Yeah.
And these are things we never thought of before. So I think the biggest message from this that we can give to you, people who are full-time RVing, is think about these things before they actually happen. I never thought that we need to stay places with a good hospital. That never even occurred to me.
No, the thought never even entered our minds.
I mean, if it wasn't for the fast actions of those paramedics and the ability to get down to Las Cruces as fast as they did, he could have died if we were even more remote and there wasn't a Las Cruces hospital there. I never even had that thought that you could die because you're not close to care. It was just something that never came up. So now when we plan, we're going to make sure that we are not as remote and we are close to care, because you never know what can happen. And then I had to think, well, what if we were scheduled to leave here like 3 weeks from when he came back from the hospital. And I was pretty sure
that wasn't happening.
I was pretty sure he wasn't able to drive, but what if he wasn't able to drive in 6 weeks? And so I had to start thinking about, well, how are we going to get Howie where we need to go
to our next location?
And then I was looking at, getting a transfer to take him, would just go back to Michigan, and, just all these things. So you have to have a backup plan, because I don't drive the rig. And even if I did drive the rig, I do not want to drive Howie by myself or whatever all the way someplace. Anyways, you got to think about these things, whether you
want to or not.
Exactly.
I mean, we didn't think anything was going to happen.
No, and it's not like you can sit here and go, oh, okay, he's overweight, he eats bad, he smokes, and I understand that you want to check off these things that you're not to make you feel better that this isn't going to happen to you. I'm not judging at all. That's what happens.
Well,
but he wasn't. None of those things.
Speaking of that, the kind of post stents, the doctor kind of did a little mini interview, and because he wanted to find the cause of what had happened. So he immediately, I think he thought, like, I ate bad, and so we started going through all of the things. Well, tell me about your diet. How do you eat? I don't eat processed foods. We eat out in restaurants once every 6 months. We make 99% of the food that we eat. I'm physically active. 6 months ago, I competed in a mountain bike race. 28-mile mountain bike race at full potential. I mean, it wasn't just a leisurely ride. We hike, we kayak, and the more I kept talking to the doctor, the more inquisitive look was on his face. Like, now, obviously, there's the one thing that you have no control over, and that is genetics.
It's all his mom's fault.
It is. It's not just my mom's fault. It's entire that whole side of the family. Sorry, guys, but genetics did play a major role in it. And there's other things that we're looking at that cause the plaque buildup so quickly. And
Because you had a stress test and and cholesterol
a
test
year and a
1
half,
year, yeah,
a year and a half ago, and I was cleared by a cardiologist, having the stress test, EKG, all of that stuff, because I knew I was going to be doing the mountain bike race, and I wanted to, I had some issues with heart palpitations and things like that that turned out were related to getting COVID. So it actually didn't affect my heart, but I wanted clearance that I could do all the things that we do on the road and do them with confidence. And I got that a year and a half ago.
And this still happens. So I guess the moral of this story is you just never know. And so now I look at myself and I'm like, okay, when's my turn? I mean, I'm living this healthy lifestyle. I'm active too. I have heart disease in my family. So not to scare anybody, or I'm not scaring myself. I'm not waiting every day for something to happen, but we're putting plans together if something does happen. The plans we never thought of putting together because we were so healthy. No pills. Neither of us take pills. We haven't for 10 years, 15 years.
I do now.
You do now.
But
yeah.
prior to that, I didn't. I took a multivitamin. That was it.
Yeah, I wouldn't even take ibuprofen unless, it was really, really
exactly.
Painful. And so it's just, we're in our mid to late 50s. I guess this is something we have to think about now.
It's just, and it's you need to make a plan, or at least have a plan for what happens when the unthinkable happens.
And typically you're going to be alone too. I mean, obviously, I'm down here. My mom couldn't come down. I mean, I didn't know whether to send for our son, who's up in Denver, who could have come down, but he's got a life, he's got a job, and so being alone for those 5 days where I was in the hospital was very difficult. I made it through, obviously, but that aspect of it just makes it even more scary, and the unknown of what's going to happen, what the end result's going to be. Even if you have a plan put together, it's not going to make all that any better. But at least you don't have to worry about that. It's like, are we going to be able to move? How are we going to move? Where are we going to go? Luckily, we were able to move sites and stay here a couple extra weeks. The park was just amazing.
Yeah, they were great.
And I do know this about the RV community. If for some reason in 3 weeks he wasn't able to even move us 50 feet down 2 sites, somebody
here would have helped us. Yep.
And that knowledge just makes me so happy and makes it a little bit better. For sure. So thank you to the RV community. I didn't even ask, but I knew if I did ask, you would say yes. And I really appreciate that.
So we haven't seen you guys in about 6 weeks. Yeah. So it's been 6 weeks since we've done any kind of content whatsoever. I'm obviously feeling much better. I'm back in the saddle. I'm working. We're creating content. We're editing. So where does that leave us? Where are we at? What are we going to be doing? What can these guys expect from us?
Every Sunday, you're going to have a RV lifestyle video, and we're kind of switching it up a little bit. After this video, you're going to see something just a little bit different every Sunday. I am not going to give any of it away. Mm-hmm. I hope you like the new format. I think it's going to suit the way we live, the way we RV, and the way we create content a little bit better than what we've been doing in the past. And then we're coming back with I think we decided Wednesdays. Cooking videos. I have got a big
stack of recipes.
Oh, I cannot wait. And one of the things I had to do when Rich was recuperating is I had to do all the cooking. Typically,
mm-hmm.
we
share
joint
the
cooking,
responsibility.
And meal planning and everything. And I'm like, oh, okay. I really enjoyed doing it, and so I went a little crazy, and I do have a stack of recipes.
And I've got some new equipment coming that I can't wait to share with you.
Cooking equipment?
Obviously, it's cooking equipment.
Of course, what else would it be?
But I'm putting my list together of recipes that I'm going to start making. Well, we're going to start making, so I can't wait for that.
Oh, we're going to be doing some cooking this summer, that's for sure. So thank you so much for being here with us, and thanks to everybody who reached out via social media.
Messages, phone,
everything.
Private messages on social media, letters, notes, all of it. Thanks to everybody that reached out to us personally, who was aware of the situation and what was going on. Thank you all. This RV community is absolutely amazing. It's an amazing group of people. And as Victoria said, she didn't have to reach out to anybody. But if she did for help, the community would have been there for us.
Yeah, and that just warms my heart. It almost makes me want to cry. In good tears, of course. I almost lost the love of my life in
a split second.
A split second.
Or lack of a heartbeat.
Oh, too soon. Too soon. But thank you for just interrupting that emotional moment, but that's okay. And yeah, I'm just happy that didn't happen.
So with that, let's close it out.
Yeah, let's get out of here with that one.
Thank you all so much for watching. Be sure and like this video and subscribe to our channel so you can find out more of our content, not only RV lifestyle content, but food content we have coming up as well.
And until next time,
Happy exploring.